but then...
So anyway, let's move on to the discussion section.
Okay.
Speed. Let's start again at speed.
If you're going to linger on the same shot for a long period of time, there needs to be a point behind it. And when you do it, don't... Okay. Like, the first time we see the shot on the porch, where Lain comes out the door and walks down the white, featureless stairway with a brief shadow on it, it's a really minimalistic shot. The first time I saw that was really cool. I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And then they showed that shot again and again and again and again. And it was never a quick shot when they showed it again. Like, showing it once like that is entirely purposeful and very meaningful. But when you keep doing it over and over again, it starts to lose meaning. And they had so many times when they would linger on a single shot with no dialogue or music going on whatsoever, which I'm fine with if there's a specific goal behind that. Like, if the goal of that is to set the mood or something like that. But most of the time, the mood has already been set. Plus, it lingers on the pictures for way longer than it needs to. And half the time, they're not well drawn enough for me to actually care to look at the picture. Like, there are cool shots, like her room. But a lot of the other shots, the same fucking shot of the power lines.
Power lines, yes.
Over and over and over again. And that was slightly relevant for a little bit later.
Yeah, that was always at, like, the exact same point in the episode, too, though. That was always at the beginning, right after the theme song. They'll be talking about something, they have the car stopped,
Do
and then
something
go around the person, and then
different.
that power line.
Mix it up a little bit. Also,
maybe there's, like, hidden hints to, like, what part of, like, reality they're in at this point. I don't know.
There's... the dialogue.
Here's the thing that would strike me when you're like slowness is when I was talking to Connor about this and we were talking about it being slow because after your first comment about the first episode a couple of days ago, Connor just goes, "What are you talking about? This is like there's so much going on. It's so like everything is filled with. It's so dense and
it's not dense.
And it's so fast paced and I don't know what." Connor, you could say it better. I don't know.
I'm not sure if you're just trying to throw me under the bus here. Or...
No, you were telling me that.
Okay, every point in this show, they're like giving you some weird random hint and then immediately moving on to the next thing. And I understand like when they actually are doing each part of this, like it takes a long time to get through this like section. But they'll do this section and then it'll like, they won't, there's no, what's it called? There's no in between on a lot of this stuff. They're doing one thing, and then they're doing the next thing, and then they're doing the next thing. Whenever they want to, like, show, oh, this is a weird shot of her room, they'll go to her room, and then they'll go to a next shot, and you'll have no idea, like, how many weeks or years or days later this is. Because there's not really a transition, which I found really jarring, and I felt like that's what made it feel really fast to me, because I just didn't know how fast time was even moving in this. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a weird, like the show freaked me out at some points just because I was like, what the fuck is happening? And okay, I'd like to move this to the discussion on episode 8 and 9 just because I really want to get it off our chest already because I
need to talk about the dialogue really quick before we do that. As another thing in terms of slowness, I think it's the dialogue was extremely slow, and normally I like slower dialogue because it gives you time to focus on a specific character's face, their facial expressions, etc. And this show almost did that, but the animation just wasn't good enough to actually show you anything about the character's like internal thought process through a long shot on their face. So it's just a long shot staring at their face with some text sitting at the bottom of the screen for a while.
It didn't work,
and it did that over and over again. Also, another favorite shot of this show is the close-up on someone's eyes, or in the fisheye of someone's face from really close. Mm-hmm. Both of those were cool the first couple of times it showed them, and then it did it every episode.
A lot less cute when they did that to her, though.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, look at this.
The pajamas are the cutest thing!
No, but then you see, like, just the
scary pajamas
of Lain.
Dude, the pajamas are so adorable.
No, whenever she's in the pajamas, she's cool.
I'd buy a future daughter.
But, like, there'll be scenes when it's just, like, you're looking at her forehead, through her forehead at her eyes or some shit like that.
Yeah, and that was cool the first 2 times they did it, and then they
do it a lot.
10 other times, 20. Who knows how many times they do
So-
that shot?
So since we're... Here you go, Jay.
I haven't seen this, but I'm trying to follow along and figure this out. So
Uh-huh.
why do you think they would do something like that? Why do you think they would use really long, stagnant shots for a period of time? Obviously for some artistic purpose, but what was the artistic purpose?
I mean, I think they're just trying to... I think they were going for a really slow aesthetic with the show. Like, I think they really wanted you to be stopping and thinking about what's going on
they
in
were
the
giving
dialogue.
you time to think. Is one
Yeah,
of the things
they're
I
like,
wanna
we've
say.
showed you things, and I want you to be thinking here. But I think the main problem...
Is
I
that
mean,
they did
I
it
think
too
that's
much.
I think that's the choice, and why they did that is because
But you don't think it's a
they
smart
wanted
choice.
you to think. But I didn't feel like I needed that time to think. I did a little experiment. I tried watching one of the episodes at 1.5 times speed, and besides the funny voices, I found it considerably better. I mean, I don't believe in watching shows sped up because that's like not how the artist wanted you to watch it. Like whoever made the show,
But
it's the speed.
you shave off,
It is.
like... How much time would you shave
I
off?
don't think you should watch shows like that. I'm
When you're gonna
highly
review
against
it,
that.
I don't know.
But I really wanted to try it with this show because of how many problems I had with the pacing. And I was still bored. But I found it a little more bearable. But I only did that for like one episode just to try.
You shave off 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Don't watch shows like that, Andrew. Don't do it.
Okay.
The sushi's crying. The artist is crying.
Oh my god.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
We
Yes,
are gonna
Jay,
get to that.
Jay, you're gonna be so excited when we tell you about this anime
God,
we're
Andrew,
watching.
stop hyping up stuff before we get to it. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
you want to go to episode 8?
Please, because this
Okay.
is, I feel like, is one of the biggest discussions that we have like such a separation on. That you
Okay.
feel like you actually understood what the show was saying most of the time, and I just didn't.
So
I
before
mean, I don't
this,
pretend to
so
understand that
Jay,
I know a lot of it, but I know some of it.
so Jay, you've listened to us and heard us talk about this show, and you probably have no interest in watching this show.
You know, there's sometimes when I have to watch shows that say, "Did you get it?" But most of the time, if I'm done, or it's like if I'm after work or after I've had a long day, I'm usually into watching some like ridiculous, silly comedy / romance shenanigans. If I had to watch this one, I feel like I would need 3 days off. I would need to have like blackout blinds over all of my curtains, and I would need to like hunker down in my room and like sit there with a notepad and paper and maybe 2
Really
notepads.
think it over.
Yeah, 2 notepads I think is necessary, and a music stand. And so I could sit there and like go episode by episode and have to watch like every episode twice, and then I feel like I would have the urge to write a paper about it afterward.
Okay. Highly specific,
So,
but yeah.
the main question, the reason why I was asking that is because we're about to go into some spoiler territory.
Oh, good.
So, basically,
It won't explain anything. Don't
won't
worry.
explain anything. But at this point, the main character has built up this supercomputer. Basically, like, so she starts off with this like child's computer, and she asks her dad to get a high tech
Navi.
one,
They call these Navis.
and she gets like top of the line, best computer ever, right?
Which is totally the same thing they call their computer or their little friends in Mega Man. Just saying.
And
Net
anyways,
navies.
Intel
so-
single core Pentium processor, you know.
So
Of
they
course.
get the best computer out on the market, and she gets it. And then she starts taking it apart.
And then she finds this weird chip, and they're like, "Oh, you can install this in the back of your computer." And we're like, "Cool, she's gonna like do something cool with her computer." No, like the next episode, she's like installing these giant cooling towers for like this massive machine she's building. And like this is a person who at the beginning of the episode goes, "I don't know shit about computers."
But here's the thing: that's part of her character where she's able to learn fast, which is supposed to
Well,
key
there's
us
a
off.
huge
Yeah.
reason
Which,
for this.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, she's able to learn really fast.
Speaking of which, she's just discovered that there's another Lain that's been going around and doing weird shit.
Okay, I figured that out too. Doing some read-ups.
And
yes.
apparently, like, people kept going, "Oh, she's the real Lain, and you're just like a illusion of her and weird shit like that."
Oh, no.
And
Oh,
like
no.
this Lane's been going around, and this other Lane's been going around and like trolling her best friend and like ruining her life. So Lane's like, "Okay, I'm going to make everyone forget everything that happened with this person." And I don't know how the fuck she does this. She just says, "I'm gonna do it," and she does it. right?
Um,
And then she
It's
goes
through the seventh protocol.
Jay, yeah,
seventh protocol, whatever.
yeah.
Time
Jay,
like flies back.
Give me a minute, real
Okay.
quick. Jay, I will be sending you a picture of what Lane's room looks like.
All right.
But continue.
Terrifying.
Anyways, so she like flies back in time or something, and then she's like just walking to school with her friends. She's like, cool. Everyone probably forgot everything. And then
they
you see
did.
this like illusion of her walk out of her. Like, you know those whole like body splitting moments when your body walks forward and you don't? Like that you see in shows sometimes? They have this moment and they're like, and then that person goes and like starts talking to her friends and stuff and acts like totally different from her, and we're thinking, oh, that's like the evil Lain, and she's acting all like different to try and fool her friends and stuff. And then the very next episode, episode 9, I'm gonna skip over a few of these things, but I'll come back to them later. But in the middle of the episode, she walks into the classroom and her desk just isn't there. So it's instead of implying that she's split into two people and like herself is a ghost.
I actually think I figured that out.
I have a lot to say about this.
Sorry. Instead
No,
of
it's fine.
herself being a ghost, she just now doesn't exist, and that whole like fake Lain that walked out doesn't exist either. And I'm just wondering what were they gonna do with all that?
Okay.
Okay.
My
And to complicate matters, not only would they go off on these have you watched JoJo at all?
No, he has not.
Okay,
watched JoJo.
not.
in JoJo they'll do this stuff where they'll like make this weird exposition about the real world that has almost nothing to do with the show, but it's just a little bit of context for what's going on in the show. They do this like 7 times during the episode
In
about
very
all this
jarring
weird,
moments.
high level like science fiction, not really science fiction. It's like potentially true science shit, Area 51, and they have fucking aliens walking around in the background, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on now? This episode got really weird, like really fast, and this was like as we felt like we were starting to get what's going on. I don't know.
Okay,
So,
in
first-
terms of the two
wait.
lanes,
First, Jay, did you see the picture?
Yeah, this is the FBI's worst nightmare.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear.
Oh,
okay.
and Lain somehow gets psychic powers apparently.
Okay,
Okay,
no,
no!
I got that.
Okay, so from what
Oh,
I
boy.
understand, I haven't read anybody else's theories on this. This
Yes.
is just what I have from
Okay, go.
watching the show.
I'll go next.
Basically, where am I gonna start with this? Okay, on the subject of two lanes. That sounds like a really cool name for a book. Or an essay.
One is
on the
there's
subject-
actually 3, if you remember. There's
Wait,
3
there's
lanes.
3 now?
Okay.
There's the shy.
Before, let me talk,
Okay.
and then you can talk. Yes.
I know, but
I want to get this out uncorrupted by any other thought process
Okay,
or opinion that is not my own.
Okay. Okay.
I'm curious as to what other people say, but I want to know after I've defined what I
Okay.
think and say. Basically, as far as I could understand with two lanes, is that she would like as she's like originally part of the Wire. I'm not entirely sure of her origin, but basically there ends up with a her in a physical body and the her that exists in the Wired.
Yes.
And these are two.
Wired is the internet.
The Wired is the internet, yes, for Jay and those who have not watched this and are still watching this. Have not watched Lain but are still watching this. Basically, there is there is the Lain that exists in the Wired and the Lain that exists in her physical body. And because of Protocol 7, which is what the dude that she met up with and helped him with the computer, and she got freaked out about the whole Knights thing, I'm pretty sure he was the one who was doing stuff with Protocol 7. And basically what Protocol 7 does is it links people up. The entire world, every person, is linked up wirelessly without the need for a physical computer present. Like, that's why we got the whole scene with the guy walking around with his
Universal
backpack.
consciousness.
Yeah, it's basically a universal consciousness, and that's why we have the scene of the guy in earlier episodes. There's the guy walking around the city with the backpack and his goggles on, yelling out to the Knights. Like, he thinks he's come to another level of evolution by integrating himself with technology, but I'm pretty sure the reason we were shown him was so that we know this isn't actually the next step as he thinks it is. This is a fake next step. The real next step is to fully and unconsciously connect everyone's brains together.
Yes.
Okay.
So as everyone's brains are connected together and there is a general universal consciousness, because there is a Lain that exists in the Wired and a Lain that exists in the physical world, it can project itself into people's minds and into memories, etc. So basically when she gets the full out-of-body experience thing, that is basically the Lain that exists in the Wired comes out, and I don't know if I don't know exactly how it works. If she takes over her body and pushes the Lain that we know into the Wired,
Well,
and
in a
as
way, the
an
one we know is
observational
just
force.
a thing herself.
Yeah, she's
It's just
also
a
not
hologram sort of
that much.
herself.
She was the one who originally inherited the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, she got her body. So basically, the Lain that existed in the Wired either takes over the body or doesn't even need to take over the body because of Parallel 7. She can just, or Protocol 7, she can just project herself into it, into the world, basically, because the two aren't really separate.
Okay.
So on the subject of two Lains, one of them is from the Wired, one of them is regular, and because of Protocol 7, she can become physically part of the world.
No, I know, and
Yeah.
we got that. Like,
Yeah, and basically she rewrote it so that all of her friends couldn't see the Lain that we're used to seeing and could see her, and that's how she basically was pushing against the Lain that we knew. And then on the whole thing about her desk being missing, she, I don't know if it was the Wired Lain or what, but basically somehow Lane's entire existence was just thrown out at that point, pretty much.
I find it weird that they kind of brought up a plot point right there, though, like with the whole splitting into two, and then it's just now none.
Yeah, it's because they resolved that whole thing. She split into two, and then they had the confrontation between the two of them, where Lain and Lain are talking, and Lain's pretty.
Was that after that one? Between them?
Well, I'm pretty sure there was some sort of
I thought the whole
There was a
fight
confront-
between them was right before that moment.
Yeah, it was. It was right before.
It was right before that moment.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I mean, I felt like they didn't really need to go further with that. Like, the reason. Okay, oh wait, okay, yes, this is what I. Sorry, my thought process just ordered itself here. Basically, because the Lain we know is mad because the other Lain is basically taking over for her temporarily. As far as I could understand, I don't know whether it was consciously or unconsciously. I'm pretty sure the Lain that we know erased her entire existence in order to thwart the other Lain. I'm not sure if that's entirely the reason. Some things like that happened. Maybe it wasn't specifically to thwart her, but there
If
was.
she did, it was definitely unconscious because
One
she
of
was
the-
surprised when people didn't see her.
One of the Lanes had motivation to. I have trouble keeping track of the Lanes. But one of the Lanes had motivation to basically erase herself from existence in the physical world.
And the reason
And
she was
exists
mad was
purely as
actually
an
because
entity.
the other Lane was making her look bad. She was like spreading secrets to people and shit.
Yeah.
But that was before the whole splitting moment too.
Yeah.
Can I ask a
So
question?
yeah,
Exactly.
Yes.
it got really complicated though after that.
Okay.
Yes.
So, if I was to ask you who the protagonist and who the antagonist of the piece is, and if I define the protagonist as the character that drives the story forward, or the character that if you pull it out of the story, there is no story. For instance, like in the story of Hercules, if you pull Hercules out of the story,
Oh,
there
that's
is no
Lain. It's
story.
Lain.
Yeah.
It's
So
Lain.
who's the
They
protagonist and
Actually,
antagonist?
that's Lain because there's a
Lain-
literal part
Lane
where
and then Lane.
there's Lain because there's a literal part where there's a literal part where at the end she basically removes herself from the story and everything that happens does not happen.
Yeah, she
It's
kind of
weird.
undoes things.
Basically, she does exactly what you said, Jay, in a very
Basically-
literal way.
Basically, the first.
So
The start of episode 13, I'm pretty sure this is what happens at the start of episode 13, is it's basically a quick, like, half episode, a little less than half episode, sequence of images.
no, that's 12.
That's 12? Where they do that? Okay. Episode 12, it's a sequence of images of all the characters we've seen so far in the show in context of a world where Lain, our protagonist, doesn't exist. And they basically go through that. Episode 11, in the beginning of it, it's a series of images of
Okay,
recap.
no, then it's 12
Yeah.
and 13. 12
No,
and 13. my bad.
11 and 13.
Yeah.
11 is a series
So
of
I
recap
got the
images.
two. I got the two
Yeah.
things because I thought you were talking about the recap and not
Yeah,
the.
recap is 11.
And then the one where
13
she literally is removed from the story is 13.
Is 13, yeah. Because
All right, here's my question, Dawson. Can you explain the moment when Lane walks into her friend's room, but she has the body of the alien?
Oh,
Okay, that's part of the Protocol 7 consciousness.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure what happened there, because she has the moment with the alien where the alien looks into her room. I have no idea why that was there, to be completely honest here.
No, what made it even weirder is they were explaining Area 51 at the time. In the weird, like the narrator was explaining Area 51 and how aliens crashed into the world.
Maybe that
and how
has
the government was
something
trying to
to
cover
do
it up
with,
and shit.
if people are aware of this supposed crash in Roswell,
Yeah, Roswell.
Maybe it's like the paranoia
everybody's
taking form.
thinking about it, and
Okay.
because everyone's minds are now connected,
They could see aliens.
Yeah, basically they can see aliens, and because Lain is somehow extremely important to this in the same way that other god character who's not a god that we meet is also very central to this whole thing.
Mhm.
Because the two of them are so centrally connected to this, all those, like, the general consciousness of everybody thinking about aliens projected an alien into Lane's room. And then I'm assuming the reason Lain took on that form from the neck down of the alien is one, because that's kind of how Erisu was I'm pretty sure Erisu started to see her as
an alien,
more alien and separate from the previous Lain she knew.
So
basically, it was a projection of how Erisu has started to see her, and also Lain being in a supple and malleable form.
So here's the thing
doesn't
about the show is that there's millions of interpretations on how you take it.
Yeah, you can interpret it however you want.
From where you're going, that's your interpretation.
This is how I see it.
From my
what I've
interpretation
seen.
is from not only like it's not fully from other people what they said, but like taking pieces
of what different people have
say,
said.
taking from our conversation here. And so from what I was reading up on is that there's actually 3 lanes, because that's what I was saying. There's 3 lanes. There's the Lain that we know, who's the shy, introverted one that we're first introduced to. There's the crazy Lain, which is basically the not crazy, but the wild Lain, which is the separate, which is the basically
original.
The polar opposite of Lain, who's not shy and introverted, who's extroverted, talks to people, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the third Lain, which is the evil Lain, which we see in episode 8, and is the one who is and in my opinion is the one who is spreading the rumor.
Huh.
So there's 3 lanes.
I always assumed
those are separate.
I always assumed the
it's a 3-lane highway.
Fuck off, Jake.
I always assumed the the rumor spreading lane was a further iteration of the wild Lain.
So the reason why I say the rumor spreading is because somebody's interpretation, which I actually, after reading it, is like that made sense to me. So which is why I'm taking pieces of it. So the original Lain is the one that we see in the beginning.
Yeah.
She is the one who is the created AI, which we will get to eventually.
Yeah.
The artificial intelligence Lain that was first created there.
Yeah.
Then the second Lain is the one in the Wired, and that's come out because of her time on the net, and that's because it's kind of how when we go onto the internet we have a separate persona. Separate persona than we are there.
Wasn't she part of the net before Lain ever touched it though?
Lain was originally part of the net before
because
she had a
the
physical
AI,
body.
Because of the AI thing. And then she was given a physical body, but then that one is the embodiment of her alternate personality. And the problem is the Lain that we know has multiple personality disorders, shown by the one where she was able to switch on and off from the lanes when she encounters the Men in Black. Yeah. And so basically there's the shy introverted one and the extroverted one, and those 2 lanes are the ones that are in the that are her in the story and in her own multiple personality disorder.
You guys are making me like this show less now.
Yeah, thanks. No, that's what we're trying to do.
Anyway.
Then the third Lain is the one created by the Knights, is the more malevolent one, the evil Lain, which is actively using to create a bad image for this god that people took up to be Lain.
Huh.
Because the Knights don't see Lain as a god.
Lain's a god?
In a way.
Oh,
It
Okay.
depends on how you define God. They do a
If
whole
you
episode on
define
this.
God as a
being that is everywhere.
omnipotent figure within a certain realm,
Is she a
that has
singularity?
worshippers,
No, she's just connecting herself to the entirety of all consciousness.
She is an omnipotent being present within the wired, which is the internet, that has followers who worship her as a god. And if that is the definition of a god to you, then yes, she
Also,
is
the
a
internet
god.
isn't just like the kind of internet that would be on our computers. It's like all
Originally,
the light
it
waves.
was.
It's all the light waves and sound waves and everything that's just kind of flowing through the air.
Mass Effect 3?
So, the thing about that's the third lane. That's what I was talking about, and that's you could tell the difference because each one are different. Where there's the shy lane, who is the introverted one. There's the wild lane, who is much more forward but not evil, and then there's the one who is outright evil with the different faces, which is the one who actively was trying to hurt the original lane's credibility, reputation, stuff like that. And the part where they face off is the part where it's the evil lane created by the knights and that original lane facing off together. And the part with the empty classroom is another thing that I've taken out from another piece of work, where basically the thing about Lain is that she doesn't like to be alone. She doesn't like loneliness, and so that is her personification in her head about the loneliness of emptiness of no one remembering her, and that's what her thoughts about the matter are, of her coming to class and then them just not acknowledging her.
So these are all taking things as in a less literal sense, and as that a lot of this is within Lane's head.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there are moments where I believe there are things that are in her head. There are times where I feel like she's rewound the clock back.
Yeah.
And then there are times where it's actually there. Because I think there is times where she rewinds the clock back, where she talks to Arisu. I'm not saying Alice. Arisu. Arisu. And she says to Arisu, hey, there are millions of versions of you, and that's her rewinding the clock back to figure out the best way to combat this outcome.
On the quote-unquote original Lain, is she the one who's talking to normal Lain at the very end, when they're like talking about like whether or not they should exist and have a body? Or do you think that's the evil Lain again?
No, that's the wild lane,
Okay.
and then the introverted lane.
Cool, because
those are the two lanes going there.
This is interesting because I always took it as two lanes, and the wild lane and the evil lane
were the same one.
Were the same one. It's just as people's opinion of the wired lane changes, she also changes.
Mm-hmm.
So as people's opinion of her become more and more like misinterpreted, and the word isn't coming to me right now, but basically broken apart, it changes from the wild lane into the evil lane.
Oh, and if things weren't complex enough, there's a subplot about using children's energy to make a psychic
Oh, we're not talking about that. Anyway,
WMD.
Speaking of, if you're listening to this and you've watched or read Index, a lot of this works the same way as AIM diffusion fields.
Yeah, or
it's a little different.
There's also stuff in VLR and stuff like that I could also draw from. Yeah. But the thing about the reason why is that there are moments where wired lane talks, and that's not at the same way as evil lane talks. There's the way that the person who did a write-up on this actually says is that you can tell which version of it is and how the voice actor portrays the voice. And evil lane has a completely different enunciation and tone compared to wired lane.
I just want to call her bitchy Lain. She didn't seem that wild. Or were you just saying wired the whole time? I thought you said wild. Okay.
But, I mean...
I think she's more bitchy than wild. Like,
no.
she's just always really snappy at people who try to talk to her.
There's main lane, evil lane, and wild lane. And evil and wild lane are both wired lane.
Yes, wired lane. But the thing is, where they come from is different. Because in the interpretations that I was reading and which I've taken from, is that the wired lane is the one that she has created herself and has just kind of, grown throughout the wired net.
Yeah.
Through experiences, through people talking about it, through all that stuff. While the evil lane is another AI created by the knights to create a more worse image of Lain.
You have no idea, after watching Lain, how refreshing Divine Gate was.
Oh,
Like, 'cause
yeah.
I felt smart, and I was like, yes.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about
Because
that.
Lain made me feel really dumb. But Divine Gate made me feel like a fucking genius.
Divine Gate. Crunchyroll
We'll
keeps
talk
saying I
about-
need to watch that.
We'll take it. We'll talk
end
about
up
that.
talking about
We're gonna
that.
sell it to you, Jay.
Oh, good.
You mentioned something recently. I almost wanted to talk about Connor. What was it?
Does it have to do with Lain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Collective consciousness.
Oh, the child WMD.
Yes.
WMD.
That whole.
Oh, did you get a Bloodborne kind of aesthetic from that, where she's just talking to the old guy on this patio, and he's
Yeah.
sitting in a chair, and he's just looking up, and you're just sitting there talking.
It's like, this is all a nightmare.
This is all a nightmare.
Just
like,
go kill a few beasts. It's good for you.
Yeah,
No,
If
okay,
you jump down
honestly,
the water down there, there's
more
like this
than
weird
anything
spider
else-
you can fight if you want.
More than anything
the part
else.
where the guy takes the invisible gun and just starts shooting at the children, I went, what the fuck's going on? Okay,
And
okay.
he actually shot someone? That was so weird.
Yeah,
We're not gonna talk-
that's just showing the breakdown of the
connection between
the connection between the real world and the wired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The steady crumbling.
Yes.
But that whole thing with them using kids for energy.
that's Index.
Dude, I swear to God, I was suddenly watching a railgun arc.
Yeah,
like,
no,
appear out of nowhere.
I felt that. I felt like I was
was-
watching something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be
That- for
based in
that-
reality versus Railgun. I don't
For
know.
that brief period of time, I was like, damn, was Kamachi really inspired by Lain? And then as I watched more, I was like, no, probably not. But but for a bit, I was questioning the origin
At a point
of his
where
thought
I saw the
process.
Bloodborne part, I was like, what, did Miyazaki get really inspired by
And the answer
Lain?
is probably.
Because like,
No, I'm just kidding.
because the thing is
That's
like,
more.
that's more likely because Miyazaki's storytelling is as complicated as Lane's storytelling.
No, Miyazaki just steals random things from people and just throws
Like
it in there.
Berserk.
Mostly
But,
Berserk.
No, dude, he just makes the
so-
entire
okay.
story item description.
Okay.
Also, this is not the anime Miyazaki. This is the
Oh yeah,
Soul
we're talking
series.
about Soul series Miyazaki,
So-
not.
Okay,
Whatever
let's
his face
start
is,
to
man.
wrap this up, but I'd want to create one more discussion from this,
Oh jeez.
which is the big one is, what is your interpretation of Lain? Was she a human the whole time? Was she an AI? Was she just a child used in some experiment beforehand? Is she just crazy?
I take things as the most literal thing, so everything that the show said about her is true. Done.
So she's an AI.
I am
She's
terrible at like
basically-
overanalyzing this shit.
So basically,
Me and
you
Dawson,
see
me and
her
Dawson
as
are
an
the
AI.
flagships right here. Just like
She was like this god who, because of like how close the internet and the real world were getting, and how much people thought the internet was overpowered back in the day, basically had godlike control and can just insert herself into reality whenever she felt like it.
no,
But she needed to come over her inner demons first before she could like.
because the thing is, so she was created into an AI, and then she was trying to abandon the physical world, but then when
She didn't want to abandon the physical world.
she kind of did.
No, like only at the very end, out of like desperation, did she do that.
No, she never abandoned the physical world. She kept her physical form.
What's
she did
his-
for a while.
that
That's why
dude-
she never grew up.
Deus.
No, but
was,
that-
Deus
that's-
was really into abandoning physical forms. Lain wasn't.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, she was trying to decide on whether to abandon her physical form or not, and to create the collective consciousness that is what they're originally trying to create.
Yeah.
But because of Arisu's intervention, she decided that physical form should be still in, and then she was able to remove the collective
But she
consciousness.
totally removed
and rewrote
herself
the
from
time.
everyone.
But she removed herself because that was the ultimate sacrifice. By sacrificing herself, she was able to create peace on the world without the collective consciousness. And because she did that, but the thing is, she wanted
It wasn't really a collective consciousness, though. We've been calling it that, but I feel like it's not actually a collective consciousness.
It's a phrase that I'm
It's just
using.
like an interconnected system that connects people's brains, but they're not sharing a consciousness. They're like,
It's not a hive mind. is what
yeah,
he's saying.
basically
It's not Rick's girlfriend.
collective consciousness. Yeah, sounds like a hive mind.
It's a universal connection.
Yeah,
It's not the enemies from Ender's Game's mind.
But yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so
Lots of things have hive minds. This doesn't.
Some people have also argued that this is about Lain going insane and having computer addiction and like avoiding the real world because of her computer addiction and shit like that.
I would say that if it wasn't for that last episode, but
Yeah, that could have been metaphorical. All right,
Could have been.
let's
All
move on
right.
from this
No.
before I feel like depressed and want to like.
All
kill
right,
myself
so
for being
Jay, I have a
stupid.
question for you. Would you ever watch this show?
You know, again, assuming I had all the things that I mentioned before,
Previously mentioned.
I would also need 1 bottle of scotch, and about 3 glasses.
And 1 bourbon and 1.
Why 3?
Because I would probably sucker some other people into watching it with me.
Big bag of ice.
God damn it!
Good
I
to
could
go.
see I could see it. You just dragging me in there and be like, "Come on, watch it again."
Into
And
the
be like-
cave, we're doing
And
this.
then the other person's Bowen.
Oh my god, that would be great.
And that's you like tempting Bowen with some Naruto stuff, and then like him coming in. And
You walk in the room, you throw it away, and like lock the door.
Just like tie everyone to the seats. All right, guys, I've auto-played them. We're all gonna
No,
be.
no, you do a Clockwork Orange where you tie everyone to the seat, and then you have the little clamps on the eyes to keep them open.
Oh, that's mean. Oh, that's mean. But you're allowed to drink copious amounts of scotch.
Yeah.
Because we've got like the.
One hand is free.
We got like
Dude,
the.
they would all kill themselves though. They just drink enough to like.
But you're wearing like the beer hat, right? With a pre-mixed like scotch and something, or you could probably do that.
You've like measured
No, it's
their,
just
their
straight
body weights
scotch.
so they don't
Straight
kill them.
scotch.
Just straight scotch.
Just-
Alright.
Not even on the rocks. It's just
It's just straight, and you're sitting there for, let's see, if it's 13 episodes times.
It's 5 hours.
So I'd be there for 5 hours drinking scotch, watching. Oh, that would be.
Because here's the thing,
Ugh.
we would at least have to. We could skip the ED, but we have to keep going through that OP because.
Dude, you need the OP to reset that series. Present time. Dude, I swear to God, that sounds like Johnny Youngbosh.
No, did you?
I mean, it's
they
not
start every
obviously.
episode on that except the last episode when they end on that. Ooh.
No, did they put that in the middle?
They put it in the middle,
Oh, whatever. fine.
Yeah, in the middle of the episode, it's present day, present time.
but that's part of the plot
Yeah.
Oh,
because
God.
it's supposed to be bringing. This is supposed to be a vision of the future.
See, this is one of those that I would watch on accident one day at like 3 in the morning and be like, hey, I remember this show that we talked about once. Maybe I should watch the first episode.
Hey, you try it, and you're like, what the hell?
And then you get to a point where you're like, you watch the first episode, have no idea what's going on, and then you click next.
Well, it depends. It depends. Is it like that show where I watched the first episode and I'm like, this is kind of interesting, and then I watch the second
Landscape?
episode, and then you reach episode 7 and everything goes downhill from there.
See, no, the
You're
thing
in the
about
dark.
Lain is you'll watch the first episode, be like, oh, this will be interesting. They'll probably explain all this stuff
Opposite
later,
genre.
and then you'll watch the second 3 or like the next 3 episode. Oh, maybe they'll explain next episode. Then you'll watch like 4 more. Oh, maybe they'll explain at the very end. I don't know.
Oh,
It gets
oh
a
wait,
little bit
wait. You're talking about White Album too, you asshole.
Well, I would never make a White Album 2 reference, ever.
That would not
That would
happen.
not happen ever.
That took me a minute. I was like, wait a second. Episode 7. Oh god.
Absolute duo fell at about the same time.
Yeah. 7's where I just realized just how bad it was.
Yeah.
Right around when they went to that
Oh
island.
my god, the island
I
arc.
love-
Ugh.
Okay, I love the fact that every
Bad.
time I get you two on the call, somehow it comes back to Absolute Duo.
Dude, there's a certain camaraderie
There is.
over having
yeah,
suffered through this.
But here's the thing: no one joins me on
I'm
my
just glad I lasted
camaraderie when
longer
I
before
watch
making
all
a
of
business
Lance and
joke.
Mask and Comet Lucifer.
Because this just happened, like...
Yeah, because I thought it
Somehow
was
we
gonna
both
be
watched.
good. I thought it was
I
gonna be
swear to
good.
God, it was going to be.
One day,
I was like, this will
one
be
day,
fun.
Somebody is gonna watch Comet Lucifer and be like, dude, what were we thinking?
Just together, you shake
Because
your
here's the
heads.
thing. Here's the thing. Around episode it was the opposite effect of Comet Lucifer, where it starts off really good, but immediately like goes downhill the minute dancing vegetables take place, and then you get to episode 7 when it gets into Metal Gear, and you immediately go, this is really cool. But wait, this is only one character, and then keep shooting back to the other characters, and then it's like, I want to see the cool shit, and then that X character dies, and then all of a sudden it just drops down.
I think in a 12-episode anime, episode 7 is very important.
Dude, episode 8, I think, is 7 and 8. It's gonna be either one of
Because
those.
it's the
'Cause
start. It's the
episode
start of the
8
second arc.
Yeah. Well, depends.
Actually, that's probably true. In Demon King Daimyo, I'm pretty sure 7 was the Sea Slug episode.
Episode 8 is like in
I
Hibeki.
love
That's
everyone's
like my
just gonna sandbag that.
single favorite.
We're never gonna talk about Demon
Episode.
King Daimyo again.
We talked about it once. That was quite enough.
What was it? I remember it got really intense in My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu, Season 2, Episode 7.
Was 8 the genuine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's genuine.
Genuine?
Don't worry about it, Connor. But anyway, before we start tangenting off even farther, give Lain a rating between 1 to 10.
I thought we were supposed to do that before the spoiler section.
No, we do that's the recommendation, and then this is the rating. 1 to 10, go.
Have fun.
Despite all I've said, I'm giving it a 6.
Wow. I just remember all the animes I've showed Dawson and he gave a 6 to now. No, I'm just kidding.
Have I done that?
Yes.
For sure you gave Midori Days and Demon King and never mind. I would give this a 7 because I enjoyed it and there's people who like it a lot more than I do and I don't know. I don't think I can give it any worse than a 7.
I'd say 6.5.
They gave a decent amount of effort into it.
I'd say 6.5.
A lot more effort than.
Which
I'm
goes
honestly
down.
really surprised I'm not rating it further lower, but I think it's because we were able to have such a good discussion about it that
Yeah.
I felt like if it's that conducive to
A discussion.
a decent discussion
Because
like
it's
that,
one
I
of those-
can't rate
There's
it
a couple
super
of times
low.
I know in the future we'll just sit down and have a different discussion about a different aspect of the show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna laugh at one day Dawson's just like, dude, Lain was actually really great.
But here's the thing.
Okay, no,
No.
I would start to think Lain is really great, and then I'd go to watch it again, and I'd
And
be like,
then-
oh my
yeah.
god.
No, that's the problem. Where again,
I just think it's
the minute
really
I walked away from the
badly
show.
executed.
The minute I walked away from the show, I always went, "Oh God, I have to go walk back to the show."
Yeah,
And
the ideas are cool, but I find it very poorly executed.
yeah, and I think
That's my personal opinion.
yeah, I agree with you
And
because
because
I like the underlying themes. So, just making sure. But yes, so
So I got a
moving
6,
on.
a 6.5, and a 7. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jay, rate this show.
I give it 3 scotches.
Got
Three
it.
3 scotches out of how many?
Well, depends
Of a full
on
bottle.
how many I can have.